Hi, my name is Kelly Wayment. Today we are going to be making a fun little snowflake. We're going to be using the ES bed or the Electrostatic bed with the Cameo 5. So this is going to be a fun, easy beginner project to get you used to using that new mat. For tools and supplies today for this project, we are going to be using the Cameo 5, and along with that we're going to be using the new Electrostatic bed, also called the ES bed. Make sure that you have the clear protector sheet that always needs to be used with the ES bed. And then you should also have a sharp blade. For the thin paper we're going to be cutting, a sharp blade is really ideal. Then besides that, we just need some copy paper, and this is a nice, smooth, good quality laser copy paper. The cheap copy paper might give you a little more trouble, so I would go with a good, smooth, high quality copy paper. And then it'll be nice to have some needle nose tweezers, a bone folder, a little brush of some kind. This is just a toothbrush, some liquid glue with a fine tip nozzle or something like a glue stick. A tape runner is not going to be your ideal adhesive for this project. And then just a little bit of string. And so that's all we need to start making these snowflakes. So here we are in Silhouette Studio, and let's go ahead and first start out with our page setup. So if you don't see this little page setup panel, it's the upper right corner icon. This looks like a piece of paper. You can click that and enter your page setup panel. So for our machine, we're going to make sure we choose the Cameo 5, and you just click the drop down button, grab that Cameo 5. The feed type, you can leave it on auto or manual. The cutting mat we do need to change, so this is important when you're using the ES bed or ESMat. Choose the Electrostatic mat 12-inch. That way it knows that you're using this specialty mat. And then media size, today we're using just letter size copy paper, so I'm going to choose letter. And then it's also a good idea to make sure your box is checked for show cut border. And I'm actually going to turn on the grid, so I'm just going to type G on my keyboard for grid, and that way I can see a little bit more where the paper itself is in relation to the cut border. All right, so the design we're going to use today, I've already purchased it, so I've got it in my library, but if you need to buy it, it is design number 389372. So I've got that in my library. I will just double click to open it. And this is bigger than we need, and we need 3 of them. So I'm going to resize this to 4.5 inches wide. And I could use the arrow, the corner handles to resize that, or if I leave my aspect ratio locked up here in the quick access toolbar, I can just set the width to 4.5 inches. All right, and so now that's the right size, but we want to be able to fold these snowflakes. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I want to create a perforation line or a fold line. So I'm going to grab my line tool here over on the left, click the straight line, and I'm just going to click and drag a line down. And I want to hold my shift key while I'm dragging so that goes perfectly vertical. And I want this to be it just needs to go from tip to tip on this middle section, which ends up being about 4.2 inches. And then I want to change it to a perforated or a dashed line. So up here on the quick access toolbar, there's a little drop down arrow when that line is selected, and I can choose a perforation style. So let me see. I'm going to go with this one that's not super tight and not super wide. It's kind of in the middle. And so now, once I've got that line in a dashed line, I'm going to select both the dashed line and the snowflake together and choose, I'm just going to center them completely. So I'm going to use this little align center. Click that once and it aligns them horizontally and vertically. So this may be a little bit hard to see, but I can see that my dashed line is there and it's not cutting completely through any of these small joints. All right, so now that I've got those together where I want them, I'm going to group them and go back out to look at my full screen, fit to window. And I just want 3 of these. So I'll put one up here, and I'm going to hold, to make a quick copy, I'm going to hold my Alt key while I click and drag and Snowflake away. It would be Option if you're using a Mac. And then click and drag while holding the Alt or Option key again. And then I just want to make sure that these all fit on my page. So use arrow keys to nudge up a little bit at a time if you need to. And as long as they're not crossing over, they are okay to be pretty close, just not overlapping. All right, so that is all we need for the setup of the design itself. And we're going to go ahead and go to the Send panel. And let's see, we will move out of the software just briefly so I can show you how to set up the mat and get that machine all turned on so it will connect, okay? All right, so to set up the Cameo, or the ESMat, the electrostatic mat with the Cameo 5, we need to first take off this little connector cover. So it's got some little lock tabs, so we want to unlock those. And then let me turn this a little bit towards me. You're just lifting up just a little bit, get your thumbs right there where those holes are, and then pull outwards towards you. And that exposes this connector where you can attach either your roll feeder or the ESMat. So now I can put the machine back down, and the mat itself has a little electronic connector there. And so you're looking for that same spot on the front of your machine. So you're just going to kind of line those up, and then you can hear that click into place. These 2 little corners will pop up and you'll hear them click into place as you're holding the back of your Cameo, so you're just kind of pushing against both sides, and that will lock into place. And now I can turn my Cameo on. 2 or 3 seconds of holding the power button. I have my blade in there. This is just the auto blade. And so I'm going to use the Bluetooth connection. The other thing I want to make sure I'm doing is I've got this clear electrostatic bed cover. You never ever want to cut on the electrostatic mat without this protective cover. So we're going to put it on here, and I like to line up the left edge, and then since there's not a grid to be able to put this on, you're just looking for these lines that go across. These are the things that create that static charge that are going to make everything cling to it. So we're just making sure that those lines are all covered with this clear protector sheet. And I like to put the protector sheet on first before I power on the mat, because then I don't have any risk of shocking, and then it's also going to suck that mat onto it, and it's easier to position it if you turn it on after it's in place. So I've got it where I want it. Just a quick button, push on the button to turn on the mat's power. I've given it just a minute or 2 to charge, and that builds up that static cling. And so now I'm just going to make sure that there's no bubbles in my mat. So I kind of just smooth out from the center towards the edges, make sure there's no bubbles on the mat. All right, so now I can put my paper on. You want to make sure that any media that you are putting on your electrostatic mat is smooth and not wrinkled, and it can't have creases or grooves. It needs to be something smooth that will let it cling in place. So this is going to grab it as soon as I put it down. So I'm just going to kind of line it up with that top part of the clear mat and the left edge over here. And again, smooth it down. And at this point, that's enough for it to start sticking. So you can see I'm pushing against the paper and it's not moving. It's stuck to that ES bed. All right, so the other thing you need to remember is it is still a cutting mat, and so you need to load it into your machine. And the software will remind you if you haven't loaded it, but you just do have to remember to load it into your machine. So there's just kind of a little handle here, and you slide it up against the rollers. Make sure that those rollers are in place, and then you push your load button, just like as if you were loading a regular cutting mat. Okay, so that is loaded and ready to cut. All right, so let's go back into the software. In the Send panel, we want to make sure that your machine is connected. So if you don't see your machine saying ready or load media, you just need to go down here and look at your list of machines and find it, whether you've got it connected by Bluetooth or by USB. I'm connected by Bluetooth, and I've already connected it, so I'm just going to exit out of that. And it's ready because I have already loaded the cutting mat. So we are using carriage 1 that's got the auto blade in it. You can see that that is detected. It's going to cut. The material I'm going to use is copy paper medium. And that one, when you click on it, it should show you a blade depth of 2. I've found that this is a really good setting for copy paper, for the thin, nice quality copy paper I'm using. And then the speed we'll leave at 10 and the passes we'll leave at 1. The force I have found with a good sharp blade anywhere between 15 and 17. So you might want to do a practice cut. I've already tested mine, but you can do a test cut to make sure that those settings are going to work well for you before you send your job. But mine is all set up and ready, so I'm just going to click send, and you can see this is not stuck to any sticky mat. It is just on the ESMat. So we'll click send. And this gives you a little reminder to load and put your blade in, and we'll just click send again. When it's done, do you want me to show how to disconnect the bed and move it out of the way? All right, so that is done cutting, and just like with the regular mat, let's see, we'll take a little peek. Yeah, that looks like that cut well. We're just going to unload with the unload button, and you're going to see how cool this is. Oh, I'll better turn off the power so it doesn't keep clinging to it. I will usually just grab the clear protector sheet and then grab my paper off of that, and you can see all those little pieces are going to release easily. So there's sometimes a little bit of connection, but look how nice that is. Okay, and here's the best part. When I take this off and all these little pieces are here, they are not stuck to the mat. You don't have to pull all those little pieces off. So I'll just usually get a little, I'm using a toothbrush, but you can use, you know, any soft brush. And there they go. Mat is clean, and I'm ready to do my next cut job. Wasn't that fun? Okay, so let me also show you how to disconnect this mat so I can move it out of the way to assemble the snowflakes. It's really easy. You just push these two corner buttons down and slide it away, and it's disconnected. So we'll move this out of the way. You want to make sure that you do not store anything on top of your ESMat. Don't put it anywhere where you're tempted to lay stuff on top of it while it's there. And I believe they don't want you also to leave that protective mat on there, but you want to leave that protective sheet somewhere that's completely flat too, so it doesn't end up getting crumpled. All right, so let's go ahead and get these snowflakes assembled. So they're just popping out of there really nicely. If it's not coming out that nicely for you, it probably means that you need to adjust your cut settings or get a sharper blade. But when you have the right settings and a good blade, good paper, it really should be this easy. So I'll just get all these little bits out of the way. Okay, so to make these little snowflakes, it's really easy. We're just going to find that perforated line that we created. That way you don't have to worry about finding it again yourself after you've cut it. You don't have to add that line, but it makes this part really easy. When you're choosing snowflakes, if you don't want this same snowflake, you just need to make sure that the snowflakes you choose are completely symmetrical. So when you do fold it in half, it's going to be identical. So you can choose, there's a whole lot of snowflakes in the Silhouette Design Store. Oops, looking for the right perforations. There's a whole lot of snowflakes in the Silhouette Design Store. Just make sure that you're choosing ones that can be symmetrical. So when you do this folding, it's going to line up perfectly. And I'm only doing 3 layers, but really you could do more. You just have to keep gluing as many layers as you're willing to glue. And now it's just a matter of applying glue. So a glue stick is fine. If you're going to use a glue stick, you're going to want to put like a scratch paper underneath so your glue won't go onto your table. But if you have a fine tip nozzle with a good quality paper glue, then you just get all those areas covered. You don't need very much. I'm just covering 1/2. Then we'll stack the other snowflake right on top of it and line up all those cut pieces. So just make sure that they line up as closely as possible. And here's where I'll use my bone folder or maybe even the silhouette scraper tool and just make sure that those are stuck. Then I'll add another layer of glue and stack the next one on top. And like I said, if you wanted to cut more and make more stacks, it's just going to make a larger, more full snowflake when it's all opened up. But 3 is the minimum to get this effect. All right, so then when we open it, do that while the glue's still wet. Make sure we didn't glue anything together to the point where we can't get it apart. And then you can either do your string right now. You can take a little bit of thread and glue it inside, but on this one I have a little spot on my snowflake that I can just loop it above, so I'm not gonna worry about adding the thread before I finish this last glue side. So one more layer of glue on half. Okay, and then there is our snowflake. We'll just grab some thread. And that is just a nice, quick way to make a little dimensional snowflake. And you don't have to, if you're using the ESMat, you don't have to worry about all that weeding for those intricate pieces. So it's a really fun project. Thank you for joining me for this snowflake project today using the ESMat for the Cameo 5. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comments below, and also let me know what other projects you'd like to see with the new silhouette machines, the Cameo 5, the Curio 2, or the Portrait 4. And I hope you enjoy this, and we will see you again.